Welcome to Buckets. My name's Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network, and this podcast is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. This is your Sixers Celtics series preview. Should be a great, Joel might play at some point. We'll get into it. We'll give you series caps. We'll give you predictions. We'll give you the whole thing here on Buckets. Join me to break this down. We got Jim Turvey at Turvey Bets, Action Network's resident Joel Embiid respecter, outside of Anthony DiBundo. And what is the opposite of a respecter, if I don't want to use the word hater? Brandon Anderson, who has looked all forward all year to fading the Philadelphia 76ers. They're going to join me to break this down. Download the Action Network app. You get all sorts of cool information. All of our articles are in there. All of our plays are in there. You get all sorts of cool stuff. Check it out in the Action Network app. Brandon, we're going to start with you. We're going to go to the table. Give me your series best bet. And then we'll go ahead and we'll go through. If you got prop plays, lay them on me. Give me your series best bet for Sixers Celtics.
Yeah, I will take Celtics in 5 or 6 to win the series. I'll split the bet in half. Celtics in 5 plus 250. In 6 is plus 450. Implied plus 114 when you play both of them.
All right. Jim Turvey, what's your best bet for Sixers Celtics?
This is going to be a surprising one. If you're listening to Monday Best, my bet is Celtics to win game 1, Celtics to win the series minus 165. We'll go into how I logically got there. Don't worry, but that is my best bet for the series.
My best bet is Sixers plus 2.5 minus 122 on the series line. That is the only line that I want. I do not want plus 1.5. I do not want the Sixers to win the series. I only want plus 2.5 on the series line minus 122. Totally fine laying the 12 cents. Brandon, we're on opposite sides. Now this means I'm going to lose, and I'm fine with that. That's okay. The series is all sorts of fucked up. So I will just say this. Let's talk about the Embiid thing first, because we got to set the table. Embiid suffers the knee sprain, misses the final game versus the Nets. He's had that entire week off. There was a report late on Friday talking about how, it's like an LCL sprain and he's in a lot of pain and all. And like, there was like, someone decided to basically put out, like, you need to understand how bad Joel Embiid is. Now, I'm a little curious about that because there's a lot of, there's two reasons to do that. Okay. The first is that it's a misdirect, which happens all the time in the playoffs. The second is you're basically trying to be like, not that he can't play through pain. He seriously suffered a sprain. This is a very serious injury. If he does play, he's gonna you need to give, it's basically, it's managing expectations for Joel. And that's fine. Like, that's what representatives are supposed to do, whether it's team or agent. That's what they're supposed to do, is like soften the blow for the guy. Okay. Especially with his injury history, which has to be frustrating for him. The series line clearly indicates that they don't think Embiid's going to play. And you were all over this. You were talking about it. We thought this line was ridiculous when it came out at minus 330 before it got to minus 560. It's ridiculous now. We'll talk about my feelings on whether Embiid plays or not. Do you have thoughts about the market price for it, the Embiid side of this, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of interactions with some of the Sixers fans on my timeline of oh no, God, this is Embiid's career. He's going to play. He's going to play. I'm like, well, politely, the market prices are telling me otherwise. The prices to me on this blew me away when I started doing the numbers, because as we know, I'm not the biggest Sixers fan as a bettor. I like to fade them. So I am very high on the Celtics and on the series. So I was thinking, okay, surely that's going to mean that there is an edge I'm going to want to bet somewhere on the Celtics, because I'm so high on them and so low on Philadelphia. And I started doing the math and started saying, okay, I don't think Embiid's going to play. This is before the Shams report came out. I was already factoring out, I don't think he plays game 1 or 2. I gave him out those couple games. I basically gave Boston a 2-0 head start in the series. I did the math. I ran my numbers. Still, after all of that, the best I could get to was a Boston minus 200 on the series. And that's when I was like, oh, if I think Boston is heavily favored here, and I think Embiid misses a few games, and I'm still coming up short of the number the books are giving us, to me, that's a red flag. That tells me that maybe the books are thinking or knowing something different than we are. I can't get to anywhere close to the number the books are pricing unless I assume Embiid misses multiple games a few games. What's gentlemen? What's a few? A couple, a few, a handful. I think that it's possible that books are pricing in that they don't expect him to play at all. To me, that's what I think this price looks like. That's no intel. I have no intel. I have no sources. My source is the line. The line to me says we don't think Embiid's going to be much of a factor for a while, if at all.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. And that's definitely like what the indications were. I will just say that this is a very this organization's not transparent. Embiid in particular, it's not transparent. It's what we always talk about. Like, oh hey, I bet on the Sixers and Embiid's out 15 minutes before tip. Oh hey, I bet against the Sixers and Embiid's gonna play 15 minutes before tip. It's a major injury. There's a risk of re-injury, which is obviously like that's a big thing with Embiid. It's not like this is the healthiest guy in the world. I didn't expect him to play until game 3 anyway. Game 3 is Friday. I don't know if that's enough time. I don't know if any of it's enough time. Maybe he doesn't play at all. Maybe he doesn't play at all. Like I will tell you this. I had to make a bet on the series based off of the idea that he wasn't going to play, period. I just think it's open to the idea. Like, this is just a guy that doesn't, like, how can I put this? This is a guy that doesn't play through injury anyway. And that's okay. Like, his body can't do it, right? This is a re-injury risk. If it's a re-injury risk, that's a whole other deal. This isn't pain tolerance. This is like, he might have to have, like, if he suffers, if it causes a structural breakdown and he tears something else, he's going to have surgery. And that's really, really bad, right? For where he's at in his career. So I kind of assume that, like, there is a good chance he doesn't play in the series. I am not at a point where I think that everything that has been reported is like on the up and up and there's zero chance he plays. That's not where I'm at. Like, I am against the market in the assumption that he is not going to play. Jim, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think the pivot point, Brandon said, what is a couple, right? What is a few? I think the pivot point is going to be 2 games because, we all know the series doesn't start until you go back home. Well, whatever. But that is a pivot point in the series. They'll have 2 games in Boston where if they go down 0-2, the series is not over. They will go back to Philadelphia. They'll have 2 chances to get back to 2-2 and the series begins. You know what I mean? But if he goes to 3 games, even if they're down 1-2, it just feels like that is the pivot point. It feels like you can get away with him missing 2 games. But I agree that the numbers out there and these reports make it look a little scarier than just 2 games. We're going to be talking about this, I'm sure, with several of our plays here. I think if you look at the books on some of the like most rebounds, most points, assists, they are not pricing Embiid like he's coming back in game 3 of a 7-game series. We'll just put it that way.
So let's talk about a little bit about the caps here. Brandon, why? So is it just that simple that you're taking Sixers in 5 or Celtics in 5 or 6 because of like, you don't think Embiid's going to play? Like, tell me the angle for why you like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's not quite that simple, but it's effectively leaning that direction. One other note with the Embiid injury is that we knew when Boston blew that game 5 against Atlanta, the reaction right away, including from me, was, Boston just blew its big advantage on the rest, and Harden and Embiid get all this extra rest up front. That was true, but the effect of that is that apparently that wasn't enough rest for Embiid anyway. He's not healthy anyway. And now that we're starting the series late, we're playing every 2 days all the way up until game 7. So now I think it actually goes against Philadelphia here because we're playing. And even if Embiid does come back now he's playing on short rest each time on an injured knee that's not fully healthy no matter where we get to. And Harden has an Achilles thing that I think is hampering his game as well. We talked about that on our game 1 best bets. I'm playing Harden unders there. He has not been getting the 2s. He's not getting to the line. He's mostly just taking 3s. So to zoom out big picture on the series, the big picture cap is this. If we don't have Embiid, and if I don't think James Harden, the great James Harden, is in there, now I've got Boston having the best player on the court, Jason Tatum, or Jaylen Brown, or both of them, over James Harden, depending on the day and depending on how Harden's playing. And beyond that, guys, if you were doing like a draft of players, I want to win a game right now. Who am I taking? I don't know how the top goes. You get Tatum, you get Brown, Harden. You might take a Maxey somewhere in there. The point is, once you get past the top 6 guys, and I'm counting Embiid as injured, that's why I didn't say him. Once you get past the top 6, then it goes Boston, 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 like 4 or 5 guys in a row. We get to like Derek White and Brogdon and Robert Williams, like all like we know that the depth advantage is heavily Boston. That is the point of Boston Celtics basketball. That is how they built this roster. If you have the depth advantage that they're going to have even more without Embiid, and you have the star advantage at the top, oh no, that's bad. So that's the cap. That's the way I expect the series to go until we see Embiid not just play, but play well. Why 5 and 6? Boston is not a team that takes care of business and sweeps folks. In the second round and beyond the last couple of years, Boston has played 6, 7, 7, 6, and 7 game series. So they have played long series. They're not a team that blows teams out usually. And they also are prone to just bad shooting games and you give one away. I don't think this goes 7 because the only reason it gets to 7 is because I'm wrong about Embiid. And at that point, my cap is off anyway. And I think the Sixers actually may have a decent chance to win this series. So kind of splitting the difference. Give me a Celtics in the middle, no sweep, no long series, just get the job done in what just kind of feels like a disappointing series in the end.
If Embiid gets announced as probable, upgraded to questionable, going to play, reported, whatever, do you bet Sixers then?
Game 1? Or do you mean like just game by game?
Let's do, they're down in the series by 2 games. So it's either 2-0 or 2-1.
So I'm not going to bet until I actually watch him play a game because I need to actually see how's he playing on the knee. Because we know yet he, not to question anything, athletes are warriors, but I don't know what you look like playing through the injury. I don't know how it's going to go. Can you get up and down the court? Can you play defense? Can you hit the rebounds? I will say this, for all the crap I've talked on Philadelphia all season long, as I dug into the series, I really think if these teams were healthy, I think I might have been backing Philadelphia in this series, assuming they were an underdog. That would have been part of it. I don't know if I'd have picked them outright, but I think I would have done like a Sixers plus 1.5. I might have talked myself into a Sixers series price since December 9th, which was kind of a pivot point. Philadelphia lost a double overtime game to Houston, which nobody should do ever. And they responded by being really good the rest of the way. They were 40 and 15 the rest of the season, first in the league in net rating, second in offense, 12th on defense. Boston was second in net rating, and then they flipped. Their offense fell off from, remember, that really hot start. Their offense dropped to 11th, and their defense was first. I usually take the offense over the defense in a matchup where this is pretty even. And I would trust the offense a little more. Boston's defense did not look trustworthy last round, and I don't really super totally trust their offense. Philadelphia's profile, all the things I usually always go by, as a whole healthy team would make me like them. I would look to bet Philadelphia and find a spot and a value. I will look for that. Even as Boston wins game 1 or game 2, I probably will look in series to maybe come back on a Philly.
All right. My best bet for the series, part 2, is Tyrese Maxey to lead the series in points. So we touched on this a little bit in the best bet. Tyrese Maxey in games where the Sixers are without Embiid but have James Harden is averaging 28 points a game. He's been outstanding. He had 44 one game, but he's been consistent too. He's had at least 23 points in 6 of those 7 games. Like I said, average of 28, which puts him just about on par with where Tatum is at. Tatum for the season did average 30, but we're in the range that, you know, it is viable. And if we think this is a series where we are not going to get very much Embiid, either because, you know, he's out the first 3 games and he returns for game 4, but it's a 5-game series, that's a whole lot of Maxey being the go-to guy for the majority of the series. He, in the 7 games that Harden played, but Embiid did not, Maxey was the leading scorer on the Sixers in every single one of those games. So he is the go-to scoring option when Embiid is out, even when Harden is there, especially with a Harden who we don't think is 100%. Right now, FanDuel does not have this number. Most of the books aren't hanging this because of all the Embiid wonkiness. There are a few spots out there you can find it. It should land in around the plus 600, plus 700 range. That's a great number. Tatum is likely going to be the very heavy favorite, probably a minus 150, minus 140, something like that. I just think the range of outcomes is much closer than that. I think Maxi's going to be looking from 3 a lot. I think he could have a couple of really big games. This could be a short series. In a short series, there's higher variance on who can lead the series in points. So grabbing a longer number, I'm changing my best bet to Tyrese Maxey to lead the series in total points.
I like it. I honestly like it quite a bit because, there's just like a lot of ways in which the Celtics, if this becomes apparent that the Sixers are outclassed without Embiid, they'll manage minutes because they get to. Like, they get to just keep guys healthy, and fewer minutes for the Stars means fewer points, less scoring. And with Maxey, I think he'll probably play to the bone because Doc will be like, he's young, he could do it. So he'll just play him out. So I'm the only person that's on like a Sixers side. So I'll talk about Sixers plus 2.5. This is not a Sixers play. It's not a Sixers play. This is a Celtics play. They play with their meat. Thank you, Doc. They play with their meat. Brandon, you bet them to absolutely trounce the Hawks, and yet, right? Like,
and yet,
the Sixers are better than the Hawks even without Embiid. The Sixers without Harden are probably still better than the Hawks. And if you're like, how is that possible? I'm talking about team construct. I'm talking about team identity, right? PJ Tucker is a motherfucker. Like, PJ Tucker is tough as nails and is going to do stuff. I actually like Tobias Harris a little bit more. Like, he's been playing really well this year. Like, this is a good Tobias year. And I think he's a little bit more consistent. And I think he's going to have some opportunities here. Tyrese Maxey is going to go to the bone. Like, they're not just going to give up. The counter here might be Harden might give up. Like, Harden might be like, I'm out of here anyway. Like, Harden being in Vegas 2 days ago does not make me feel awesome about the fight and heart of the 76ers. But again, this is about Boston. When Boston's bad, they're terrible. They're just they're not bad very often. Like, that's kind of the secret. Their defense is extremely vulnerable. Robert Williams, like, not the same dude that he was last year. He's just not. Like, the injuries have taken something away. Horford looked awful game in round 1. He looked terrible. And I'm a big Al guy, and he'll be fine. Like, I have Celtics futures out the wazoo, so I get to take this bet. But if I'm doing this, like, the Sixers are going to steal 2 games. They're going to take 2 games, and we're going to be like, how is this in a game 6? And maybe by game 6, Embiid comes back. But that's all I need here is I just need the Sixers to find a way to win 2 games. They steal the first one because it's wonky and weird, and everyone's like, oh, are the Celtics in trouble? And then they dominate, but the Sixers get one more. Like, there's all sorts of ways that I can get home on 2.5. And it's minus 122. I just need 2 games with the prospect of Embiid potentially returning at some point in the series. That's enough for me. Does this cap make sense, Brandon?
Yeah, I think so. My only fear would be if Boston goes up 2-0 at home, which I think would be the expected outcome at this point, assuming no Embiid, which we are. Boston's up 2-0. You go to Philly. If Embiid's not ready for game 3, if Boston wins that one, like, at some point, if Harden is on his way to Vegas and Embiid is not looking ready to play, then does the whole team just pull the ripcord? If you just know that the writing is on the wall. So we don't know, but I think you're right, though. Like, I like the Philadelphia side. I think there's a chance to steal games. Philadelphia was second in the league in fourth quarter net rating. We saw last series, Boston's not good, guys, in the clutch. They are not good at closing teams out. I think that would be a spot where Philly could steal a win. Also, not that we want to rely on our guy Doc, but Doc is good with these undermanned teams. Doc would love to steal a game against Boston and make this series more interesting than we're giving credit for. And it's Joe Mazzulla. We haven't really seen him do much yet, and what we saw was him playing with his meat against Atlanta. So it wasn't pretty. So to me, in my article previewing, I'm just going to read it. If you're scoring at home, Sixers can win if Embiid gets healthy, if Harden plays like his old self, or if Rivers has a big coaching advantage. Those are real possibilities. I'm not betting on any of them. But you only have to get it for a couple of those games, get a couple steals. I think it's definitely playable.
Yeah,
I think
go ahead, Jim.
the way you phrased it is perfect, Matt. Like, you don't need the Sixers to win 2 games. You can rely on the Celtics to lose 2 games. And with the variant, they're variant. They take so many threes, and they can go cold. And when they go cold from 3, it's very easy for them to give away games. And I think that's, for me personally, if I'm there, that's what's making me sleep well at night on the Cap is the Celtics can lose too.
They lost a game 5 when the Hawks didn't have DeJounte Murray.
Yeah.
Like, they lost a game 5 at home when the Hawks didn't have DeJounte Murray. Like, that's who Boston is. So I'm going to bet on that, and I'll take the +2.5. I would love to do more breakdown on this. Embiid takes the wind out of this one, Sales. It just does. Like, it just robs us of a lot of stuff. But luckily, we have coming for you tomorrow the most casual of all casual series in the whole world. As tomorrow, we'll preview the Los Angeles Lakers versus Brandon's Golden State Warriors. Don't ever let me catch you talk about your Timberwolves. No Timberwolves, no Bulls. They are your Warriors. Maybe I'll let you have the Thunder as like your filter team. We'll do that tomorrow. We'll also give you best bets for the Tuesday slate. We'll do all that on Monday. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you guys being with us. My thanks to David Payne, our producer. My thanks to Jim Turvey at TurveyBets. You can catch Brandon on Twitter at Wheaton Brando. We'll see you guys again next time. And until then, let's get buckets.